Hello everybody, this is Dr. Cliff, and we've got another exercise here where we're going to take a look at some sales data, and we're going to use a slicer this time to help us analyze the sales data and answer some questions. So first thing we want to do is just take a look and see what kind of files we have to work with. So I have two files here that we're going to work with. One's an Excel file, PivotTable, manipulation, and slicer student. So should give you a hint that we're going to create a pivot table, which shouldn't surprise you in this class. But we're going to work with the slicer, and this may or may not be the first time we worked with the slicer, just a way of filtering data. And then like we often do, we have sales analysis data as a text file. We might want to take a look at that. If we look at that sales analysis data as a text file, we see it just looks like a mess, really, in its text version form. And we should know by now that Excel is going to be good at importing that data that starts off as a text file and making sense of it. So let's see what our Excel file looks like. And it doesn't really help us a whole lot, because when we look at our pivot table manipulation and slicer student Excel file, I've got a tab that says raw data that's completely blank. And we've got a tab that says pivot table design. And really the only thing that's on this pivot table design is maybe a step that tells us get raw data from sales analysis data.txt. So that should make sense. We're going to go grab that text file, and we're going to bring it over here to Excel, and we're going to put it in raw data. And then we're going to create a pivot table, and then there's just a few questions here. I don't know, maybe 12 questions or so. And the questions want to know things about the sales, like which country did the most sales, or how many planes did Italy order. The questions will probably make more sense as we go and grab our data. So let's do first things first. We're going to get our raw data from sales analysis. So I'm going to come over to raw data, and I'm going to go to data, and we're going to get data from a text file, and then we got to tell Excel where is that data. So you should have already downloaded this to your computer, saved it on your desktop or wherever it is that you need to save it. And there's our sales analysis data that we were going to work with. So I'm going to import that. And it looks a little bit better. Things are kind of separated into columns, and looks like we've got addresses and contact names. One thing we notice right off the bat is that there's no salesperson. So obviously there was a field for salesperson that looks like it's not been populated, it's not filled in, and that's not always surprising. I mean, sometimes we get reports or we get data where someone has set up a column and they just haven't filled that information in. So shouldn't be too alarmed when that happens. That's just what happens when we work with real data sometimes. We're going to go ahead and load this data. And it looks just like what we thought. Salesperson is blank, but then we've got an order number and an order quantity. So just so we understand, an order number is like a purchase order number or sales order number. An order quantity is the number of pieces that was ordered, and then the price each, which we've seen that before. Let's go ahead and maybe format this. And we'll make it look like currency, since it's money. And then the order line number, so just like we would see, a lot of times we might place an order and there would be multiple line numbers on one order. Looks like everything on our screen right here was line number 1. Then we got an order date and a status, whether it's been shipped or not. The quarter that it was ordered in, the month that it was ordered in, the year that it was ordered in. What we'll be interested in here is a product line, so they're selling different things. Again, I think this data, it's not real motorcycles or real buses. If you look at the dollar amounts, you can tell that that's not what that is. the product code that describes that product line. We're more interested in the product line, the actual words that make sense to us. We've got a customer name, which we might want to know something about, and we've got location information, which is always interesting. And I think for this exercise, what we're most going to be interested in is the country itself. So let's go back. Delete that sheet. And we're going to rename this sheet raw data. And let's go back and see what we were going to do. Insert a column for extended price. So let's see, where would that make sense? For an extended price, we should recognize by now, extended prices for each line, the price for each times the quantity ordered. So it would make sense that I would insert a column here. And I'd call this extended price. And that's just the quantity ordered. So this first one is the 36 items times $96.66 a piece. And that'll give me a number that'll tell me what's the extended price. So what's the total price for that particular line for every one of these orders. Let's just see how many orders we're looking at, or how many lines of orders. So 2,824 lines of orders. So that gets our data. Let's open that one up a little bit better so we can see it. Gets our data in a condition where we're ready to start answering some questions. So you see, first question says, which country did the most dollars in sales? So if I kind of look here, I can tell that I have dollars here for each line, and then way out here on the end I've got the country. So if I could start organizing things by country, I could tell which country did the most dollars in sales, and that ought to be a pretty good clue for you that creating a pivot table certainly would make sense. So let's end here, and we'll pick up here in just a minute and see if we can get a pivot table and start answering some of these questions.